Hey everyone, Razzbowski here, and welcome back to Theory Thursday. Unfortunately, we didn't have an episode last week because there wasn't much to cover, but oh baby cakes, we have got an exciting episode this week. Over on voices.com, Scotty Boy has revealed a lot of information, or should I say his clients, who he has hired for the Sister Location voice acting. They've released little bits of information that we can feast upon in the upcoming weeks until the Sister Location is revealed, and baby, it is hype as hell. Spoiler warning though, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't want this information, because yes, it doesn't spoil the entirety of the story, but there may be little bits in there that you think, why didn't you warn us? Well, we did warn you, so get those butts prepared. Who have we got with us this week?
You've got, of course, Ryan.
The Ryan.
Dorco.
Excellent, boys, let's get straight into this. Woo!
So this version of Sister Location, as we said before, is going to be a heck ton more story driven. It's going to be direct story as well, judging by the looks of things. We're going to have like cutscenes, and we didn't really have too many of those in the past FNAF. We kind of had half cutscenes with phone calls, and I don't know, this one's going to be a lot more different. But guys, what do you think as a whole this is going to mean for Sister Location, and how it's really going to compare to the previous FNAF games we've seen?
Well, I think FNAF has always had a story-driven thing to it. Like, obviously, the phone calls worked as the story, and the cutscenes, the mini-games, they all worked as a story. But obviously, this time around, there is actual proper voice acting within these cutscenes and mini-games. So, I don't know. I don't know specifically if there will be, like, proper cutscenes like there was in FNAF 2. Like, maybe if there is, it would be like FNAF 2, where it's just, like, kind of not really, I don't know, it kind of added to the story, but in a very strange way. You had to kind of decrypt it.
Too vague still, yeah.
I believe that maybe the, because we see like voices like Little Girl 2 and stuff like this, and you know there's not going to be a little girl in the establishment unless it's like a ghost or something like that. So maybe just like FNAF 4, when you walk around to little kids, rather than have it text appear, it's actually the voices of the characters that appear.
Yeah, it definitely suggests there's going to be less mystery or less research or guesswork, I suppose you could say, from our point of view with doing the theories and solving the story. I think Scott's going to make it a lot more simple, but at the same time, just because there's voices in it, and just because we have proof from maybe even the animatronics speaking, because we do have lines from Baby and Ballorina and stuff, we already have these as proof. He can lace these with different things. We now get emotion, because before in text we could read it different ways. If you're reading a book, you always have your own voice inside your head of what the character might sound like. This time Scott's able to direct them and say, no, Baby's scared at this point, or no, Baby is being sinister at this point. She's actually it sounds like she's being nice, but she's got a layer of threat under her voice, or intimidation, or that kind of thing. So I think we're going to get a lot more of the character through this, which is fantastic. And we've even got villain. We've got villain in here. We're going to hear what the bad guy is going to sound like, if he's going to be creepy and sinister, or if he's just going to be an average Joe. He's just going to be like me, and he's going to be like, hey guys, how you doing? Knife. And you're dead. So I think it's going to be very beneficial. Scott has already said on Steam that this is very story-driven. It's very different to what's happened before. And I think what he means is potentially a cutscene aspect, definitely, because it is different to what we've had before, because we had to solve things through mini-games. And I think maybe this time it's more, we go from A to B, and in between these points we get story, as opposed to having to press tiles on walls, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to say that from the previous FNAF games, it's the story, but you have to like bloody work hard to get that story. But I think voice acting is a big step to bring out characters and story. Because in the mini games we did get text in FNAF 4, but like it's completely different to voice acting, because you could say you could type one thing in text, but it's got no emotion or anything. You don't know how they sound, like you don't know how they're saying it as well. Like are they saying it in a scared way? Are they saying it in an excited way? But yeah, I'm really excited for the story, and like Raz said again, Scott said it's going to be different, and I've said ages ago in all our Theory Thursdays that I want cutscenes back, because FNAF 2 is the only game where we've had like cutscenes like that ever, and they were short and they didn't have any voice acting. So Imagine what they're going to be like in Sister Location if there are some.
A few things I want to speak about as well, like in terms of unvoices.com as well. A major thing which convinced me that there's going to be definitely a lot more lore with the backstory of this is that there's actually a voices clip called Workers. So clearly there's going to be some kind of working establishment within maybe the Sister Location, even the new place that these animatronics have been transported to. That's going off the basis that the thing where it teases that Sister Location was cancelled is actually before the game even starts off. And it's, as Dorko's game said as well, directly about the voices of the characters. Like, you've got to think, when we see, for example, in FNAF 2, the purple guy going up and dismantling Freddy, or even in FNAF 3 for that matter, we don't know what's going through his head. Perhaps, you know, we get this in movies. It's like a brief dialogue where someone reads a text. You never talk out loud in real life, but sometimes from the talking that they do, you can get the deeper sense of emotion. And, you know, I think, you know, a big thing about voice as well is it really, it kind of closely brings together like a character, and everyone can understand it the same way, rather than just a purple man. Like, it's been a year, we've theorized on him, but still, we don't know what he sounds like. We don't know what his past is. I mean, he might, if he does dismantle an animatronic, we might hear a bit of wording or dialogue from him. He says it like, "This is for my family." What about if he has a bad past too? It's going to be the little things which are really going to add up for this story, and it's going to make the theorizing process very, very interesting as well. There's going to be more direct messages delivered through, especially the animatronics' voices and their past, perhaps. It's just really exciting, and it sounds like it's going to be a really, really great experience. Yeah,
talking about like the voice acting as well, like obviously throughout the other games we've had to kind of, well, we've had Easter eggs, haven't we? We've had like Shadow Bonnie, stuff like that, and we've kind of had to go our own way, like in I believe it was FNAF 3 with the whole like Raz with the panels and the words, the numbers down the sides. I think that maybe there will be hints within the voice acting of certain Easter eggs.
Yes,
and who's to say that? Who's to say that any of these listed here aren't Easter egg voiceovers anyway? Like, you find something, you type in a certain thing, and something like this pops up with I don't know, a bit of the lore of the story, maybe.
It's Scott's thing, isn't it? He's always done hidden Easter eggs and stuff, and we're gonna get what I presume is gonna be a fairly linear story, which on the surface seems to be solving everything, but there will be Easter eggs. There's got to be. I mean, we've already seen on the map that there's these 2 hidden rooms. So how do we get to these rooms? Maybe there's an animatronic in there, or maybe we see something that we're not supposed to see that helps us solve bits that are maybe still vague. Scott's a very good storyteller. We've seen this from the first 4 games from FNAF World and from the book itself, The Silver Eyes. He's a very good storyteller, so I don't think he would make it obvious everything on the surface. It's going to be like an iceberg. You see the tip of it from a distance and you think, wow, that was a nice story. There's a little bit missing here. Look underneath the surface and there's a butt ton of information there. And I still think it's going to be that way. He always does it. That's his sort of signature thing. So I think we're going to solve it through some sort of Easter eggs. To go back onto what Ryan was saying earlier on about the workers, there is also the costumed entertainer.
Yes.
So obviously this is hinting at more storyline, whether it's obviously not during the nights, if you know what I mean, because we've not seen. That suggests another person, doesn't it? That suggests somebody else is there. This person has been given lines, and it's Kellen Goff. Sounds like a female's name, but I don't know 100%. I don't know on that. If it was like Jeff Goff, then I'd be like, that's a male. But Kellen, that could be male or female at this point, and they've obviously got a significant enough line to say something. And what this suggests is earlier on in the story, when perhaps they didn't have the animatronic suits, or maybe is this a spring lock suit? So obviously they could go inside it, and maybe we'll see something going on, because the Sister Location was set at the same time as spring lock malfunctions. So maybe this poor Kellen, Kellen is one of the victims that we heard of in FNAF 3 when it said that there was multiple and simultaneous spring lock malfunctions. So I think, again, just from this voices.com, it's hinting at what we've been talking along all these months now about how we're going to see what happened at this point.
I think the game will have more than one playthrough, because Scott from past games said he wants to do it so you keep, so like kind of like FNAF 3, like you just do a normal playthrough and you're like, oh, there's actually a different way to beat this, and you get a secret ending, something like that. I definitely think FNAF Sister Location is going to expand that more, because it's more like more free roamy. And also the voice actors as well. Like, what if on one night you get Baby saying this thing, but if you play it again and you do something a little different, Baby says something else which helps with the story or something like
that's
that.
True.
So it's just definitely going to be more interesting, and I'm excited.
It's just going to be so different as well from how FNAF 1 to 4 have done it, because it's been so vague and we can only make sense of so many things as well. And as Raz said, with the linear storyline for this as well, it's going to really kind of take us down more of a straight corridor than a bit of a windy one where we can perhaps get lost along the way and kind of go different routes. I think the fact of that is going to be nice. And as Dorko said as well, like, he toyed with this in FNAF 3, didn't he? Like the good and the bad ending. We still didn't really learn a whole lot about what the true significance behind that was. But maybe things like this will be explained, and maybe Sister Location will also serve as like the gateway between the unexplained things in the past games.
Yes.
You know, we've still got like Fred and Friends 83. Everyone got so confused with that one. And he said as well, which I find this part really, really interesting, the fact that he did make a Steam post in regards to someone asking if there was potentially going to be a sequel, and he didn't say no, but he also didn't say that there's looking like there's going to be one planned, because as of current, there's not one planned. So even if this does answer all of the questions, it seems like Scott's going on a basis as of if people enjoy the way this game done. Because I think there's still going to be, regardless, because it's what makes FNAF so good, he's not going to answer everything. He's maybe going to leave a small thing, which is going to grow. Which is going to grow over time. He might tease this on Scott Games, and this is how the seed is planted for maybe a sequel if Scott thinks the first one did as good as he wanted it to.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, we're looking at this, voices.com. I mean, he has really taken his time with this. I mean, the first voice starts off in February of 2016, and the latest one is as of September 9th, which is only like a couple of days from recording this. So just from seeing that alone, you can tell that Scott has really taken his time with this and making sure that everything is absolutely perfect. So that's awesome.
Lewis, are you going to talk about FNAF World?
Yeah, you got to remember some of the voice actors are from FNAF World.
Oh,
like
course,
what was it? The sassy voice? Sassy voice is probably Chica, Toy Chica.
Yeah,
the sassy voice. But But the fact that is that he tried it out with FNAF World. This might have been a test for the Sister Location.
And people liked it.
People enjoyed the voice acting in that because they were like, "Oh, this is pretty funny. I like that." And so he decided to add it in. One more thing that I thought might be interesting with the voices, because there are so many options here. Like you were saying there, Dorko, about maybe in the second playthrough you go back and Baby says something different. Maybe because you've learned a certain piece of information, you're able to have an option of doing something slightly different that will affect the overall outcome of the story. So maybe if one of the animatronics was to hurt something, or maybe one of the animatronics was or you learned a bit of information, like on night 3 something happened to Baby, if you were able to prevent the series of events going on, maybe kind of like the butterfly effect. Maybe you could stop that thing from happening to Baby, which would in turn help you towards the end. Because, again, massive spoiler here. If you're still in here watching just now, there hasn't been too big a spoiler so far, but there's a Baby final encounter. Whether that's suggesting that Baby is the final encounter, but it does suggest that Baby is going to be the lead again in here. There's nothing to do with the Ennard written in any of this, but then again, I think Scott's keeping him secret, so he might have told the voice actors what they can write and what they can't write as the titles for things.
Well, I just thought, mate, like, Ennard does seem to be the villain. I'm not saying villain is Ennard. Because, you get what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we've got the entrepreneur as well. We don't know about him. We were told about him in the Sister Location cancelled due to leaks. That could be the villain, I guess.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention as well that by the looks of it, Baby is going to be talking at the start of some of the nights, because Phone Guy or whoever he is, it only has a few nights. By the looks of it, he has like night 1 and night 3. He doesn't have like night 2 and night 4. It says Baby like night 2. So possibly Baby says stuff at the start. And I was thinking, if any of you guys have played like Shadow the Hedgehog or something, there's choices you can make, and it would have been cool, like maybe you have a choice to help like Ennard or Baby or something like that.
Okay,
because
multiple choice,
but the Baby and the other animatronics seem to be like dead miserable, don't hold it against us, like something's wrong with them, and maybe you have a choice to save them, kind of like FNAF 3 with the mini games. You could save the kids and you get the good ending. Maybe you could like do something to help the animatronics, and then there's Ennard, who's like the bad guy who's possessed all these animatronics. Like, what's wrong with him? Maybe we can do something about that. But I think there's going to be a choice in this game. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think the choice aspect is going to be big as well. Because, yeah, there is so much still unexplained, and if Scott is really working this, he says it's going to be a completely different playing experience to the other FNAF games, and we have to really take that as the regard. I mean, when you think about it, FNAF 2 took him 87 days to put together. Granted, he had some of the models and things like that already prepared, but he's really spent a lot of time on this. It's been close to, or is it maybe even over a year since the last FNAF game, like horror game. We did have the Halloween update, of course, but it's been so long, and he has really been working hard on this from you can tell. He did FNAF World Update 2, which slightly entwined this as well. So it's leading up to something big, and I think it's going to be very exciting, the outcome, really regardless of how long it takes him to complete.
One final thing I want to touch on is that there are actually 2 final encounters written on this site. There's one baby final encounter, and then there's a final encounter text. Now, the final encounter text is the same guy that does nights 2 and 3. And then obviously you've got baby. So if this guy is maybe Ennard or the phone guy or the purple man or whatever, he is there at the end. Now, does this suggest that baby speaks to us afterwards? Is baby the final boss? Or, as Dawko was saying there, are the 2 endings? Because maybe you could get the baby ending, or you could get the phone guy or the purple guy or whoever this other guy is, the ending. There is it looks like there's 2 different paths here, which is very, very interesting. It'll be great to see if it is 2 endings. This does really add into replayability and a good ending and a bad ending, or maybe just 2 different endings. Maybe there isn't a right one, which is always great to see because it leaves you thinking more, doesn't it? And it does leave Scott open for another game if he wants.
It could. The only thing I can think about this being as well is that maybe like on night 5, the text ending is probably the ending of the story, but if we beat like 720, then that is the baby final.
Yeah, well, that's true.
That could be the other thing. But I think likely it seems like we saw much more in the update 2 of FNAF World as well. There was like 4 or 5 endings. He's been toying with that for a long time. He's building up. I think this game's going to have multiple endings because he doesn't want it to be a one-time playing experience. It's gonna be really, really something.
Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was another episode of Theory Thursday. Oh, the release is upon us, baby, and I'm absolutely hyped as hell. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please hit that like button. It really, really is appreciated. Make sure you go and check out all the boys' channels, including the 2 Ryans individual ones, down in the comments section below. They do fantastic games, and it's just a pleasure to watch them in the shower and obviously on the screen as well. But either way, guys, we're gonna get out of here. I've been Razzbowski. You've been the beautiful bastards as always for watching, and I'm gonna have to censor that because of YouTube's new guidelines. Goodbye.